Today's tech tip of the week is looking at a tool called Doctopus. Even though it has a very silly name, it has a great function behind it. Doctopus is a Google Spreadsheet tool that can help teachers manage the flow of shared documents in their Google Drive accounts. The basic concept behind the tool is to enable teachers to quickly share documents with all of their students on a roster, monitor their usage of shared documents, and give students feedback within that roster. So if you create a template document, you're able to share that with all of your students with just a few clicks of your mouse. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up a web browser and sign into your Google Drive account. You'll see mine here. Before starting the process, it's helpful to create a folder that's going to house all of these documents. I've called mine Doctopus Demo. Within that folder, I've placed two items. One is a document. This is my template that I'm going to use. Up at the top, I put name, period, date. If you were in middle school, if you were in elementary school, you might put name, class number, date, those kinds of things. You can ask questions. You can add things like formulas. Below here, I've given some other suggestions of ways that you can use this with comprehension questions, formative or summative assessment pieces, rubrics, projects, differentiated questions, math worksheets, lab reports, or even score sheets to fill out throughout the semester. So, for instance, in my classroom, when I had my students track their math scores on their homework, they were able to then compute at the end of a chapter what their homework grade was without me having to do a lot of work on my end because I wasn't using homework as a score towards their final grade. So I've created this document or template that each student is going to be issued. Also, I've created a roster. My roster is going to look very short because I've only included a few people in our tech office, but you would do your entire class. First name, last name, and then student email. Student email is going to be their DG00 number at students.dg58.org. They all have this email. Even though email feature has not been turned on, it still links into their Google Drive account. These files will then show up in their Shared With Me folder, so without any work, it will automatically be done for you. So Doctopus runs with a script. A script is basically a little software that works within the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click the Insert menu and go down to Script here at the bottom. Once I click on Script, you can either search through the education file, you can type in Doctopus, or because of its popularity, you can find Doctopus in this main screen. I'm going to click the Install button. It will take just a few minutes to install. Once installed, you'll get the Authorization Required screen. This basically is telling you that you're authorizing this script to run. I can go down to the bottom and click Authorize. You'll get the installed screen. You may get another pop-up window that will tell you that it's running. From here, click the Close button, and you'll notice my last menu that appears is now the word Doctopus. This is where I'm going to do all of my work. The nice part about this is it does give a tutorial within this menu, but I'm going to start the installation of this script. I'm going to say Launch Installation. It's going to give me the same authorization, and I'm going to say, I am authorized. Click Close. And now I have step 1 appearing. From here, I need to just answer a few questions in order to create these template or these shared files for each student. So the first couple questions are, what type of sharing do you want to do? There's a couple different ways you can do it. A project group is going to share based on how you've grouped students. So group A, group B, group C, and so on. The groups will all be given the same document with access and editing rights to one document. For instance, if I had pairs of students, the pair of students would receive the same template as well as the editing rights so they could collaboratively work. Individual, all the same, is where I'm going to give all of my students the same document and they're all going to get their own copy. Individual differentiated is exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to essentially label my students as A, B, or C, depending on their ability level or depending on the document that I wish for them to receive. The differentiated is going to then send all of those students a document based on what they were marked, and then whole class means you're sending one document to the entire class, giving all of your students the same editing rights within that document. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to do all the same. Below, a new menu pops up, and I'm going to ask what kind of access level. This means if I create a document, say for Scott, he's going to receive the documents. Do I want other students to be able to comment or view his paper? So if you are interested in that, you're going to want to select one of the view or comment features. I'm going to select no access because maybe this is going to be a summative test. I don't want other students to have access. I can then share all of these things with another teacher. So if you have a co-teacher or a resource teacher that you want to share with, you can then go ahead and type in their email here. Down here during roster settings, you'll see that you are basically going to leave these all the same. But if I, for instance, need to change how I'm getting these students out based on the information that I put in the roster, I'm going to select that. And then if I needed to excuse certain students, I would mark how they would be excused. I'm going to save settings and move on to step 2. Step 2 is going to ask me, what document do I want to copy and distribute? As I had mentioned before, I suggested creating a folder that contains the document and the roster. You'll see here that I have quite a few folders. I'm going to scroll down until I find Doctopus Demo. That's the folder that I created. It's going to search within there, and then it's going to tell me what's the file that you actually want to distribute. You can use a Google presentation, a Google spreadsheet, and a Google document for this case. I'm going to choose that I want my document to be sent to all my students and click Save. Step 3 is then going to ask me how I want these to end up in my students' files, as well as how I want them named and if I want to notify students. So I'm going to select that I want all of my students' files to be shared with me back in my Doctopus folder. That means that's where they're going to be housed. If you have another location, you would select that as well. These blue lines here are going to be very critical. If you've ever done a mail merge in something like Microsoft Word, you know that it's going to pull information based on the headings from your roster. So you see first name, you've got last name, and you had email. Again, you have $ first name, $ last name, and $ email. So basically, if I want to make each one of my students' files their last name, comma, first name, and then Doctopus Demo, that's exactly how it's going to be for each student. So, for instance, if you have Scott Meach, it's going to be Meach, comma, Scott, Doctopus Demo file. Mine would be Olson, comma, Kristen, Doctopus file. It's going to pull the information based on the spreadsheet. Down here at the bottom, you can elect to send an email or not to your students. For our case, with our students not having email, there's no reason to send them an email that they have any shared files. You'll just let them know that they have something waiting for them. So I click Save, and step 4 basically just goes over everything that you've selected, and then the final thing to do is click Run, Copy, and Share. From here, it'll take about 30 seconds depending on the amount of students that you have, and each one of your students is going to get their file shared with them. You'll get a successful message that everything was shared, and now within my file, you'll see I have something called file key, which we don't need to worry about. We also have a link for each person's file. So if I need to quickly go into Pat's file, I can click on her link and go into Pat's file. One thing to note is that when I open her file, you'll notice her document is called Venna, Pat, Doctopus Demo file. Again, the same is true for all of my students. The Doctopus menu has now changed. You have step 1 through 4 if you ever need to do that again. You can refresh the time of last edit. What that means is this column, when students edit, will be changed. So if you want to look at the most updated, you can refresh the time of the edit. Again, you also have embargo for grading. Basically what that means is it turns your students' documents to view only, so they cannot go in and change any comments that they wrote, any of their writing from this point forward. You can also send personalized email to students saying, hey, I think you did a great job, or whatever it may be. And then done with this assignment, transfer document ownership to students. This is an important one, and it's a fairly new feature with Doctopus. What it allows you to do is it basically makes them the author as opposed to you, which is nice. So if you're interested, it also has a grade column and written feedback if you want to keep track of how your students have done on this project. But that's the basics of Doctopus. As always, please let any of us know in the tech office if you'd like more information on Doctopus, or if you'd like to set up an appointment to get some more one-on-one time to actually go through the process with one of our instructional technologists. Have a wonderful day.